Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening around the world. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Blackjack. Today, as always, I'll be doing a YouTube deck tech for you guys from the comment section. If you're interested in having me put a deck together for you or help you tweak a current list you're trying to work on, I'm looking for any of the 5 metrics in the comment section. A bracket, a budget, a theme, a commander, and any pet cards you might have. Today, we have a request from the user Jesse, who's looking for bracket 3, Glarb, $200 budget, top deck manipulation, and graveyard recursion. So this is bracket 2. In order to stay under $200, I could not fit any noteworthy cards in here that were game changers. I think you could fit a Seedborn Muse, but what I would say, Jesse, is just go ahead and add whatever game changers you already personally own that you want to play in here for a couple of these cards, and it will be a bracket 3 technically, but I think this does play powerful, and it will be a high bracket 2, low bracket 3 deck in my mind as of right now. But this is Glarb. It is Sultai, black, green, and blue for a 2/4 frog with Death Touch. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands and cast spells with mana value 4 or greater from the top of your library, and you can tap it to Surveil 2. So this is all top deck manipulation and then graveyard recursion with reanimation abilities. Creatures, so let's go over your payoffs first. You have AC, so draws cards and benefits from getting lands into play. Slam Dunk, Avenger Zendikar, you can end the game with a card like this by making plants and then growing them up. Colossal Grave Reaver can kind of siphon things in and out of your graveyard. Doom Whisperer, you can surveil, plus it has flying. It's a 6/6. Eye of Dusk Mantle, 7 mana, flying, lifelink 3/8. You may play lands and cast spells from cards in your graveyard if you've surveilled this turn, which you will be hopefully surveilling every turn. So this is actually a pretty sweet card here. Coma, Cosmos Serpent, probably the strongest creature in this deck. Massacre Worm, there might be times where there's a bunch of creatures on the enemy's board and this is the target you want to go for. Metamorphosis Fanatic, I love in graveyard recursion decks because it's basically a free roll. Anytime that you have this and the target that you actually want in your graveyard, you'd obviously get this and then be able to also get your target. So you essentially get a free 4/4 lifelink. Muldrotha the Gravetide is kind of a souped up version of everything going on here. It allows you to play every single card type out of your graveyard once per turn, which is very, very powerful. And then I believe that is essentially all the payoffs. There's some other 5 mana creatures, but overall, those are the things that I would say are going to get you way ahead or actually win the game, have massive impacts, and change the game in your favor. Other than that, here we also have Aftermath Analyst. We will be milling away a bunch of lands, so being able to play those out of our graveyard or get those all back will be great for us. Elves of Deep Shadow. So if we go over our ramp package, we have Elves of Deep Shadow. We have Sakura Tribuilder, Cultivate, Farseek, Kodama's Reach, Nature's Lore, Rampant Growth, 3 Visits, Soul Rain, Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone. So we actually have 11 here, which is more than we'd normally play. But one, being able to get a good foundation of mana underneath you when your major win cons are anywhere from 6 to 8 mana is very important. 2, you can pretty much just surveil stuff away that you don't want in the mid game. So if you already have a good foundation, you already have a good amount of lands, you can simply just surveil them away. You can surveil your rampant growths into the graveyard and look for more action. So I think it's okay to actually play a little bit more than 10 here. And then the reason that we play Elves of Deep Shadow and not something like Llanowar Elves is if we are trying to hit our commander a turn early, Elves of Deep Shadow will actually generate a different color of mana. It'll generate a black, whereas Llanowar Elves will only generate a green. So this could actually help you hit your commander a turn early, and if we had a bigger budget, we definitely would reduce some of the Kodama's Reach and Cultivates, and we would go up on things like Delighted Halflane, Birds of Paradise, and actually try to consistently get Glarb out on turn 2. But we just didn't have the budget for it here. Eternal Witness to always get stuff back out of your graveyard. Fanekeeper's Familiar is pretty cool. So remember, anything that costs 4 or more, you can cast from the top of your library. So if this is sitting on the top of your library, you can cast it for flash, you can gain life and surveil, you can destroy an enchantment, or you can counter a creature spell. So it's multifaceted. Foundation Breaker, you can evoke this out and just hit an artifact or enchantment on the cheap. Matoya, whenever you scry or surveil, draw a card. Again, ideally you're going to be surveilling pretty much every turn of the game, so this is basically just draw 1 extra card every turn. Mirko, whenever you surveil, it gets a 1/1 counter, and then at the beginning of your end step, you may return a creature with power less than his power from your graveyard to the battlefield with finality counter. So this is going to be basically a reanimation piece every turn over and over as long as he stays alive. Muldrifter and Shriekmaw, just cool cards to play. You get to evoke them out on the cheap. You can cast them from the top, I believe, even though it's with their evoke cost. So it is pretty sweet. Oracle Moldiah, one of the best overall card advantage pieces in green, and it's at 4 mana. You get an extra land, and you can play lands from the top of your library. Sidisi allows you to mill stuff, create creatures, as well as Teyval. And then Tatiova for more card draw. Gitrog Monster for card draw. Timeless Witness, you can cast from the top to get stuff back. Uro, it only costs 3 mana, but ideally you're going to be escaping it. So this will be a creature that comes back over and over, nets you advantage, and eventually will take over a game. Finally, Wonder, a great piece to surveil into your graveyard and simply give all your creatures flying. Sorceries, you have Behold the Sinister 6 to get a bunch of stuff back. Buried Alive, for obvious reasons, go and get 3 creatures, depending on the game state, and put them into the graveyard for you to play with. Dread Return, you can cast from the top. It's a reanimation piece. Life from the Loam, just in case you milled way too many lands, it's a way for you to buy some lands back and continue the party, have it dredge instead of drawing, so you're milling more cards. Living Death as a one-sided board wipe. When it comes to a Reanimator deck, you're happy to lose your board and then get everything from your graveyard back. Most people are not. Reanimate, Rise of the Witch King. Victimize, all ways for us to bring creatures back out of the graveyard on the cheap. Instance, so again, keep in mind we can cast anything 4 mana or greater from the top. Baleful Mastery as removal. Drag to the Roots as removal. Pylon, Price of Fame, Snuff Out, Force of Vigor, all removal pieces that we can cast from the top, and most of them are actually going to be reduced. So like Force of Vigor, hopefully free, Snuff Out free, Pylon you can invoke for it, Price of Fame gets cheaper if you have a legendary creature, this gets cheaper if you have a certain amount of card types, and then you can pay certain mana for this to change its ability essentially and give your opponent a draw. But all of these things you can cast on the cheap. Dark Ritual, ideally just to get your commander out a turn early, or you know, if you do have a Massacre Worm in your hand, being able to get it out 2 turns earlier than expected can be a way for you to change the game in your favor. Getting any of your big reanimation pieces out is going to be good. Factor Fiction, great thing you can cast from the top, and it puts stuff in the graveyard, as well as Frantic Search. Spellgyre, so we only play 1 counterspell in this deck, but the cool part about it is you can also surveil 2 and then draw 2 cards if there's nothing to counter. So just kind of on theme and interesting. Artifacts, Conduit of Worlds to play those lands out of the graveyard, plus you can get non-land permanents. Head Shredder allows you to mill stuff and then get lands back. Enchantments, you have Animate Dead for reanimation. Enhanced Surveillance, so anytime you can look at, you may look at an additional 2 cards each time you surveil. So the exile part you don't care about, but it is very powerful for you to activate Glarb, and every time you surveil 2, instead you're surveilling 4. So that is very good. Guardian Project for consistent card draw, as well as Phyrexian Arena. Ripples of Undeath is one of the coolest card advantage pieces in any reanimation deck. It allows you to mill and then buy stuff back. Finally, Taval's Judgment. You're probably only going to get to activate this once a turn, but being able to draw a card pretty much every turn that you're getting something out of the graveyard is going to keep you and your game plan moving along quite nicely. Lands, at 100 or under $200, we couldn't have the perfect mana base, but we did get to fit some good stuff in here. As you see, we did still fit a shock land. We do still have some cool, interesting lands like Alchemist Refuge. But overall, this isn't anything particularly insane. We fit a Watery Grave, and then we have things like Undergrowth Stadium, Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. It's a great starting point and a land base that I recommend if you do want to stick strictly to that $200 budget. Again, I think overall this turned out as a great reanimation deck. Saltai Reanimation always a good time. It's always going to be around bracket 3. I would say if you do want to spice it up with some game changers, that's totally fine. Just add whatever you want. The only one that I would say is non-negotiable is Seedborn Muse. But as always, let me know how the deck plays out. Thank you so much for watching, and Godspeed.